Hello, everybody, and welcome to Penguins to Go, your daily dose of Pittsburgh Penguins news and analysis. You can find us on YouTube at Inside the Penguins, or anywhere you get your podcasts from. I'm your host, Nick Brlansky, and today I have one simple statement. Usually I ask a question and then give you the answer in my opinion, but today I have a statement, and I think most of you would agree with me. Let's just give Kris Letang the Masterton trophy right now. What a roller coaster of a season it has been for the Penguins franchise defenseman. Let's already take out the fact that he is probably the most polarizing player on the Pittsburgh Penguins, and he's arguably one of the most polarizing players in the National Hockey League as far as his performance is concerned. As a human being, I don't think there's anybody who dislikes Kris Letang, right? Consummate professional, always puts in the work, always puts in the effort, beloved by his teammates. So that's not a question. But his performance is volatile. It's either Norris Trophy level or I'm getting so aggravated with this player right now, I don't even know how he is a top-line defenseman. We've seen peaks and valleys through 17 years with Kris Letang. But I think what we all come to realize in the end, even when he has his stretches of inconsistent play, we always realize in the end that he is one of the best defensemen we have ever seen lace him up for the Pittsburgh Penguins. So let's break this down into this season, right? Let's constrict this down to this season. What opens you up to scrutiny the most as an NHL player? There's a lot of things that can open you up to scrutiny in the NHL. Performance-based, anything that you do off the ice if it is not deemed acceptable. But the two things, in my opinion, that usually open you up the most. One is being a top draft pick, whether that's number one overall or it's just being a first-round draft pick in general. That is something that sticks with you throughout your career, and you're expected to perform to a certain level based on being that first-round draft pick, right? Based on being especially that number one overall draft pick. You see it, Crosby has dealt with it his entire career. Connor McDavid, you see it that way. Jack Hughes, you see it with him. Nico Hischier, you see it with him, right? Is this guy a bust is always the big question. And the second thing that opens you up to scrutiny the most, being an NHL player, is a shiny new contract. Kris Letang got a shiny new contract last summer, which means, as everyone knows, this season was going to be big for public opinion on Kris Letang because he signed a 6-year, $6.1 million deal last summer that signs him through the age of 41 years old. Now, I don't know if I do know. If you're listening to this podcast, I know you've watched a lot of Kris Letang's hockey. It is a style that is leave no doubt. Tomorrow is tomorrow. Leave it all on the line today. More often than not, that's what he does. To play that style to the age of 41 would be very impressive. A lot of people have tried to predict the fall off of Kris Letang. It hasn't happened yet, and in fact, last year, he had a career season at the age of 34. So, a lot of scrutiny will be opened up on Kris Letang because of that shiny new contract. And of course, what happens right after that? He gets off to a rough start to the season. In the first 21 games, Kris Letang scored 1 goal, 12 points, and was a -7 in plus-minus rating. More importantly, in my eyes, when looking at a defenseman, is the underlyings, right? Everybody loves underlyings versus eye test versus counting stats. For a defenseman, I think the best way you can actually see if they're a good defenseman is the underlying stats. It's that plus the eye test. And he certainly wasn't passing the eye test early on in the season. The underlying numbers weren't great either. 47.98% of the shot attempts at 5-on-5, 49% of the expected goals at 5-on-5, and 47% of the scoring chances at 5-on-5. Not awful for a third-pairing defenseman on a middle-of-the-road team, but on a team that's trying to become a Stanley Cup contender and you are the number one defenseman, not great. Specifically, when you're the worst in all of those categories among the team's defensemen. Now, there's something to be said for the fact that he gets the most minutes, he gets the toughest combinations of opponents, but still, I think we can all agree he wasn't performing early in the season. And then it got worse. November 28th, he suffers a stroke. The second of his, I don't even know how to say this, his career, his life. A massive event. Massive health scare for somebody who was considered to be one of the most physically fit athletes in North America. It was considered ridiculous and crazy and unimaginable in 2014, and 9 years later, it happens again. Fortunately, it was much less severe from what we were told. Fortunately, he was so hyper aware of his body and how he feels and how he should feel, and when it's not like that, smart enough to say something. Smart enough and present enough to say something to a medical professional. And luckily, everything was able to be recouped and he was able to recover very quickly. Faster than anybody expected. I mean, he was back on the ice 10 days later in practice. And then he's able to return for 8 games in December. And in that 8th game, or maybe even the 7th game, and then he tried to play through it, he suffers a lower body injury against the Detroit Red Wings. At least nobody could pinpoint when it happened, but that was the last game he played. Suffers a lower body injury, is going to be considered day to day. And again, like everything this season for Kris Letang, it got worse. A few days later, just before the Winter Classic on January 2nd, we learn that Letang's father passes away. So within the span of 6 weeks, the man has a stroke. He gets injured again after that, and his father passes away. An unimaginable sequence of events that nobody would wish upon anybody, ever. But Kris Letang went through it a few months ago. He makes his return again on January 24th against the Florida Panthers, scores 2 goals and 2 assists in his return, including the overtime winner, and right there you just knew the rest of this season is going to be something special for Kris Letang. The team itself, we don't know at that point where it's going to go. Are they going to make the playoffs? Maybe. Are they going to make a run at the Stanley Cup? At that moment, everybody said undoubtedly. I think even at this moment, some people would say, yeah, I doubt it. But the one thing we knew is Kris Letang was going to show something special the remainder of the season. And since then, he's done just that. 19 games played since his return. 15 points from the blue line. 7 goals, 8 assists, and 3 game-winning goals. All of them coming in the overtime period. And of course, the latest being last night in a pivotal matchup against the New York Rangers. He fires away on the power play, beats Jaro Halak, and gets the Penguins that all-important second point. Not only that, he makes history. According to Penguins PR on Twitter, tonight marked Kris Letang's 3rd overtime goal of the season, 3rd since his return, setting a new franchise record for the most by a Penguins defenseman in one season. That's good. Only 2 defensemen in NHL history have scored more goals in one season in overtime. Shane Gostisbehere has 4, and Scott Niedermayer has 4. I think I speak for everyone when I say, even though I dislike watching overtime games, right? Especially when the Penguins have a lead going into the 3rd period. and then seeing it go to overtime, which is a different conversation for a different day. I'd love to see Kris Letang get at least one more to tie the NHL record. 2 more to break the record in this season would be just another chapter of this incredibly, I don't even know how to explain it, right? It's not incredibly amazing season. It's not an amazing season for him. It is probably the toughest year of Kris Letang's life. But like I said, he's coming out on the other side of it, and he's just performing, right? Told you the counting stats. Underlines, like I said earlier, they're important to me. They might not be important to you, but they're important to me. Markedly better since returning. 56% of the shot attempts, up 9%. 56.6% of the expected goals, up 7%. 55.7% of the scoring chances, up 8%. Not like he's playing any easier opponents, right? Not like he's playing any less minutes, right? All of this, and as if, obviously, unimaginable sequence for six weeks at the beginning of this year. Last week, he busts his lip on March 2nd. 24 stitches on his upper lip. Puck also goes in the net, so apparently he owes Tristan Jarry a dinner. I don't know whether he's paid up on that yet or not. Comes out, finishes the game. Penguins get the OT victory. Just another chapter in the story of the 2022-23 season for Kris Letang. I said all this under the guise that we should just give Kris Letang the NHL's Masterton Trophy right now. For those who don't know, the Bill Masterton Trophy is awarded to the player that best exemplifies the qualities of perseverance, sportsmanship, and dedication to hockey. Not a single soul on this world will doubt any of those things about Kris Letang. They wouldn't have before this season, but especially after what he has gone through and the way that he has come back to the team, led this team, and the Pittsburgh Penguins are much better off for it, for having Kris Letang around. You saw when he was gone how different that locker room was. You saw how different it was just by watching the games, right? He is an important figure to this team. He is an important figure to the city of Pittsburgh. And we all commend him for his bravery, for his perseverance, for his dedication to not just hockey, but his dedication to his teammates, his dedication to the organization, his dedication to the city of Pittsburgh, and his dedication to his family. Kris Letang is a 10 out of 10, 100% great human being. This season, he has gone through unimaginable tragedy and unimaginable pain. And the man has come out on the other side to just sit there, play hockey, and be great. And I think he deserves something for that. He's going to say that at the end of the day, all he wants is a Stanley Cup. He deserves more. So, shout out to Kris Letang. I hope he continues to just completely be on a torrid pace for the remaining 17 games of this season. I'd like to see him break the overtime record, although I'd like to see the Penguins get some clean wins in regulation. But at the end of the day, it's undoubted that he's going to be the Penguins nominee for the Masterton. I think that it's undoubted that he deserves the Bill Masterton Trophy in 2023. Thank you so much for tuning into this one. Find us on YouTube at Inside the Penguins or anywhere you get your podcasts from. Also, make sure to check out all my writing on the hockey news for InsideThePenguins.com. I don't know what else to say, guys. The Penguins playing pretty good hockey right now. 7-1-1 since that embarrassing loss to the Edmonton Oilers on home ice. Things are looking more and more like a Pittsburgh Penguins playoff push is certainly in the cards. We'll see how far it can go, and we'll see you guys next time.